guys don't understand. They do that on the club level fight. Opponents, they say, y'all don't want to get knocked out by this guy, so I'm going to come in heavy. They're going to need the fight because they got to take the fight because they kind of get the numbers. That's what they do on the lower end. But now, they flipping the strip and doing it on the high end. You know what I'm saying? So that practice, you're going to start seeing that a lot now. But how we doing it now?
No, it wasn't like he put a whole bunch. They only found specks of that shit.
No. If he battery.
No, I get.
It's gotten really bad for Gervonta Davis, as he has moved from having a controversial draw in his last fight to battling another accusation from his trainer, claiming he's guilty of PEDs intake. That's outrageously shocking when you consider how many fights Gervonta Davis has won and how there's a possibility that he has been taking performance-enhancing medications for many of his fights without the discovery of the boxing governing bodies. This revelation came from Calvin Ford, surprisingly, and that's because of what happened between him and Gervonta Davis after Tank's fight against Lamont Roach.
You gotta calm down, listen to me.
Hey, come on now. We're trying to get it. There you go. That's all you have to do. There you go. Stay focused. That was a good.
Tank had not fought a fight since the beginning of his career without Calvin Ford leading his corner.
And it just went like you said. It was. We looked at 3 rounds. Brian was calling out, I need 3.
It happened for the first time last week, and the result was there for all to see. However, what was particularly striking was Tank's actions to Calvin Ford, disrespecting his coach for no reason. During one of the latter rounds, when Gervonta Davis was told to be more careful by Coach Calvin, he simply yelled, "Calvin, calm down and listen to me." This was deemed rude by many in the boxing community. A fan said, "I pity that man so much. Tank is so disrespectful and rude, and he really can't do much without him."
As someone that's had Tank since basically he was a pup and you've raised him as a boxer and a man, what would you like to see Tank do?
I believe in any of this shit. He made me do it. They start to see. Promoters know these things. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to, in the words of Floyd Mayweather, I'm just trying to keep the playing field even. That's how he said it. That Floyd said it like that. I'm just trying to keep the playing field even.
And the safety of the sport.
And the safety of the sport.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like to clear that up. Now also, right?
Another had placed himself in Gervonta Davis's shoes. If I have someone like Calvin Ford do to me what he did to Tank, I'd be forever grateful to him, and he'll never lack anything in his life. One condemned Gervonta Davis's actions seriously and described Tank as an evil person. Tank is so wicked. I really can't be cool with someone like that. He's an ingrate despite all what Calvin did for him. Then he'd come and say Calvin is his dad. Well, Calvin Ford has now revealed the real issue that caused their split. He graced an interview where he was asked deep questions about the whole situation.
You know what I'm saying? Tank does that, to get an eyebrow out of people. Like, you know how the Rock, when he put the eyebrow out, and he did get it. That's just like when they...
Well, you truly don't listen to just a side of the story. However, if all that was said was true, then Gervonta Davis must be something entirely different from the amazing boxer Gervonta Davis knew him as. Calvin Ford went ahead to talk about the happenings between them. He then spoke about the sacrifices he made for Gervonta Davis's and how he's been with him to fulfill his son's wish of watching over him for the rest of his career.
Oh, everything just happened.
That's all right. I feel you, bro.
Y'all get what I'm saying?
That's all right.
And that's all I got to just
Sadly, Ford has gotten nothing for his efforts, and he's given up on Tank already, which is why he's been out to incriminate Gervonta Davis in any way possible. Calvin Ford graced a live interview where he made it known that there's more to Gervonta Davis than the eye meets. And while he's been hiding under the guise of an invincible career, an impressive knockout ratio, and a large fan base, there's so much corruption from Tank behind the scenes. Calvin Ford also revealed that Tank's major weapon has been his psychological bullying of his opponents and his power.
Whatever was going to happen.
Yeah, they're getting their excuse ready.
Say it again?
They're getting their excuse ready when they lose.
Come on. I just know this right now, like, we ain't in the personal game, but again, we sending a message through him for the rest of them. He's playing boxing. They ain't giving him the real strip for 30.
Hence, anyone who can withstand this bully will most likely withstand his power. This was exactly what happened in his fight against Lamont Roach, where he did all he could to bully the Washington fighter. But when he was outwitted, he began to bulge and could hardly do anything to save himself. This also happened some years back when Gervonta Davis faced Isaac Cruz and went the full 12 rounds with the Mexican Pitbull. Cruz was able to withstand his bullying antics, and it was one of the closest fights of Gervonta Davis's career. Now, Calvin Ford just revealed another major weapon Tank uses against his opponents, which is performance-enhancing medications.
So bad. I heard him so bad where everybody leave out and sit there and say, gosh. Then the rest of them behind this want to think about it. They don't give us our props. We don't want no props. We want to show them this is boxing, right? We're going to show you.
Hey, Coach,
With these medications, Gervonta Davis has a physical edge over his opponents, which makes it possible for him to lose the early rounds and take in punches without getting so fatigued. His strength largely comes from the performance-enhancing medications he takes before fights. But for some reasons, the boxing governing bodies have either not discovered this or have decided to overlook it. But Calvin Ford is revealing this now, so the public will have an idea of who Gervonta Tank Davis really is and all he's done to get his victories.
If you go back in history, they did the same thing. That's why Leonard was like, they did the exact same thing. That's why Leonard said, we're the A side. They handle that. Our job is to handle the fighter. The fighter job is to handle the fight. So when he speak about his team, this is team right here.
Calvin, do you feel disrespected right now?
No, I feel disrespected because the shots that he shot, and they kept going with that same narrated from day one. But why you?
Also, Calvin Ford is saying this because he's ready to put Gervonta Davis into much trouble and strip off every one of his boxing accolades. He's set to push him to a loss in his next fight, and his next fight is just around the corner. After one of the more controversial boxing matches in recent memory took place between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach Jr. on March 1st, the entire boxing community was clamoring to see these two face off again so that the first fight's majority draw decision could be put in the rear view.
We ain't doing that. You go look at Tank, all this fight. That was the first fight in a long time when Tank first started. His body was that defined. You see how his body looked?
It quickly became clear that both sides were looking to get a rematch together, and an ex-post from Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix confirmed this by writing, "A Tank Roach rematch could happen as early as June 21st in Las Vegas. Both sides are now committed to running it back. Now that a date and location for Davis versus Roach 2 is seemingly being finalized, there has been social media debate from fans about which of these world-class boxers will emerge victorious in the second showdown. Some fans are siding with Roach. One example of this is with an ex-user who posted 2 photos from the first fight and wrote, "Roach is beating that guy again, mate."
I really like boxing.
Are you open to immediate rematch?
In my contract, immediate rematch was signed. I signed for the immediate rematch when I signed for the first fight.
Right.
Just in case he lost or just in case it was a draw.
So when you got a rematch clause, how long we take it?
It's up to the A side.
Another fan posted a gif of a cockroach wielding a lightsaber, an indication that they're favoring Roach. Other fans are siding with Davis for the rematch. In one example, a fan wrote, "I thought Roach won the first 115, 113, but I think Tank will make adjustments and win the rematch." Tank, "I think Roach will be very competitive, but Tank will KO him in the later rounds," added another. The hype for this fight is only going to build as the expected rematch date gets closer. But before the rematch, the boxing community must get to the root of Gervonta Davis's use of performance-enhancing medications.
Tank won the rematch. Did you let me know now? Did you want to fight Tank again? He said he opened to do a rematch. Did you want to fight Tank?
100%. It's only a matter of time. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight again. It's just whenever the fight gonna happen.
So it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Okay. They said they want in New York again. Do you want to fight again in the Barclays Center?
I wouldn't mind.
Now we understand why Gervonta Davis stood very firmly in the defense of Ryan Garcia during his suspension. It was far from a situation where one of the gang members was caught and the others took to their heels. With Gervonta, he stood and defended his own against the entire boxing world. Well, that was because he was low-key worried about his own fate too, as he has been a dirty fighter, according to their revelations.
Bro, go look at Ryan fight and go look at Ryan versus Devin and go look at my fight versus versus Ryan. You can tell that Ryan didn't look no different. If he looked any different, he probably looked worse. He just was a bigger person, much slower.
In the heat of Ryan Garcia's PEDs case, Gervonta Davis took to social media to voice his outrage at the attempts to discredit Garcia's recent victory over Devin Haney, bluntly stating they are doing anything to take away the win from Ryan. In a show of solidarity with his fellow boxer, Davis condemned what he perceived as a concerted effort to undermine Garcia's achievements in the ring. Davis was so keen on bringing Haney down that he extended the heat to those supporting Devin Haney. Hours after the news broke, Davis hopped on X with a scathing message for the people accusing Garcia of cheating. Davis surprisingly leapt to the defense of Garcia, who tested positive for a banned substance on 2 separate tests taken by Vieda, the day before and the day of his upset win over Devin Haney last.
8 or 10.
What's the beef with Eddie Hearn?
That's the question I'm with. He's a snake in a suit. That's all. He's a snake in a suit. Bro, he let what's the guy's name? Conor Ben test positive and was still gonna let him fight.
In a now deleted tweet, the Baltimore native wrote, "They are doing anything to take away the win from Ryan. If that's the case, ban Eddie Hearn Silver Spoonhead."
Huh?
On an Eddie Hearn show? Or does it need
No,
to be?
because I can't trust Eddie Hearn. You can't trust Eddie Hearn. You can't at all. He's a snake in the suit.
Why are you standing with Ryan Garcia over this? How can you stand with Ryan Garcia over the failed tests?
See, another thing. You know why I'm backing Ryan? Because a lot of boxers.
However, Davis quickly realized one tweet wasn't enough to express his disdain, so he took another shot at it. In a following tweet, also deleted, he bashed the entire boxing world, backing Garcia while accusing Eddie Hearn of some serious stuff. The whole boxing world is straight sycophants, and every boxer on my timeline that claims Ryan cheated. To hell he got to cheat. When he fought, nothing came back positive. He fought on the side of DAZN with the promoter clearly wanting his fighter to win and got put. Eddie is known for doing dirty stuff, wrote Davis. Hearn, who has a long-standing relationship with Haney and has frequently promoted him since 2019, did not take kindly to the remark from Gervonta Davis. "I mean, he blamed me? Really? The guy's an idiot." Hearn told IFL TV in response to Davis's post, "I've already messaged him."
You see how serious why didn't it take 72 hours for the test to come back, right?
Came back after the fight, yeah.
Right. So why ain't come out that Tuesday or that week next? They waited till Canelo fight to push that he had something in his drug. Then once they
I listened to Gervonta Davis. It is so painful listening to this guy who knows absolutely nothing, right? And he's like, I don't know if you saw the clip. He's like, yeah, what I want to know is, like, how comes they let him fight if he had it in his system?
The one thing about Gervonta Davis is he really talks some stuff, but why do you delete your tweets? Can you not stand by what you say? So you want to come out and say, yeah, Eddie Hearn is a dirty guy for doing this. What the hell are you talking about? And then he goes and deletes it. So anyway, I'm really sorry, but I'm not involved in collecting Ryan Garcia's blood and urine samples. Tank then insisted Garcia was being set up and took another aim at Hearn, to which the promoter confronted the undefeated star in his private messages. Interestingly, it's Ryan Garcia's father, Henry, that has now spoken about Gervonta Davis's fight with Lamont Roach and advised him ahead of their rematch. Now, as Davis prepares for an expected rematch later this year, one veteran voice in the sport is making headlines for calling out what he sees as a critical flaw in Tank's current game, a flaw that could cost him again if it isn't addressed. Henry Garcia, father and coach of Davis's former rival, Ryan Garcia, has offered his honest assessment of Tank's latest performance. Speaking to Fight Hub TV during a press conference for Ryan's upcoming fight, Garcia Sr. didn't hold back.
And, you know, he switched his trainer, you know. That's could be another factor.
With Barry Hunter being the head trainer and Coach Calvin being outside.
Yeah, but he snapped at Calvin too. So that's, you know, there was something going on. I really don't know, and I couldn't really speculate on that because I don't know.
His age is catching up to him. The legs aren't there as they used to be, Garcia Sr. said, suggesting that Davis no longer moves with the same explosiveness he once displayed. A shocking take for a fighter who's only 30 years old. Garcia also questioned a major coaching decision Davis made ahead of the fight with Roach. Instead of having longtime mentor Calvin Ford lead his corner, Barry Hunter took charge, sparking speculation. Garcia Sr. believes this switch may have played a role in Davis's underwhelming showing, adding, he switched his trainer, which could be another factor. Though Ford later clarified that Hunter took over simply because of scheduling conflicts, not because of any fallout. Garcia Sr. and others remain unconvinced the change had no impact.
But I know that something was bothering Tank because Tank is a good fighter and he's out to hurt you, you know. But hey, you know, Lamont Roach stood his ground, and he did a great job.
And when asked if he believed Davis had done enough to win, Garcia didn't mince words. There's no way you can say that Tank won. There's no way. Despite the controversy, Davis remains undefeated. But with his reputation on the line, a rematch with Roach is reportedly in the works for June 2025. According to Boxing Kingdom, the rematch may take place in Las Vegas, although some insiders are pushing for a return to New York, where their first bout was a sellout success. Michael Woods, a respected boxing journalist, pointed out that both fighters are East Coast natives, making New York an appealing option.
There's no way you could say Tank won. There's no way.
Do you think that he's diminished in some way, or do you think that just mentally he just wasn't there for the fight?
Well, a little bit of both. You know, his age is catching up to him. You know, his legs aren't there as he used to be.
Yet, given Tank's star power and Las Vegas's reputation as boxing's mecca, the final decision will ultimately rest with Davis and his team. However, if Davis wants to maintain his standing as one of the sport's elite and avoid another disappointing result, he'll likely need to address the concerns raised by Garcia and others. His mobility, trainer alignment, and overall sharpness will be under a microscope heading into the rematch. With Roach eager to prove the first fight wasn't a fluke and Davis determined to reassert his dominance, fans can expect fireworks when they meet again. The big question now, can Davis silence the doubters and show that he's still the same fighter who took out Ryan Garcia in devastating fashion? Or is his era as boxing's lightweight king starting to slip away? Against Henry Garcia's advice, we will most likely see Barry Hunter in Gervonta Davis's corner again, especially considering the fact that Gervonta and Calvin Ford don't look like they'll be back together.
I know it's about 2 or 3 o'clock. I don't go track of time, dates, and everything. Yeah, it was a spirited fight. And if you remember early on when we spoke at the Barclays, and actually on the All Access, I told you then, Lamont is a very skillful fighter. He can fight, he's from the area.
And with Barry Hunter failing to get a win in his first fight, it's likely the same will repeat itself when next Gervonta Davis faces Lamont Roach. It was supposed to be another routine night at the pugilistic office for Gervonta Davis and company this past weekend. The moment his showdown against Lamont Roach was announced, Team Davis never appeared concerned or unnerved. Roach was a familiar face and had a more than respectable record, and while he did hold a title, he was considered the smaller man. Viewed as a sizable underdog, Roach fought like a man with something to prove. From the beginning, he boxed beautifully from the outside. When Davis forced him to abandon the jab and fight on the inside, he had no issue.
In that DMV area, there's a lot of talent, and nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to lose. So I knew it was going to be a hard fight.
By the time the final bell rang, fans inside of Brooklyn's Barclays Center stood dumbfounded. Although they enjoyed 36 minutes of pure violence, they were unsure who would be awarded the victory. As the scores were slowly being tallied, Team Davis patiently waited. In the end, The grins that were etched upon their faces were eventually wiped away as their man was forced to settle for a majority decision draw. For the first time in his pro career, Davis walked out of a ring without an official win. As he slunk into his chair backstage, his team, including Barry Hunter, shook their heads in disapproval at the decision. Hunter, who was pushed into the leading role ahead of Calvin Ford, believes the judges got it wrong. From his vantage point, Davis had his hands full.
Extremely hard. I told you earlier, Lamont Roach was ever a cheap date, so we knew that going into this fight. I thought
there would be no point in being mendacious about it, but he's fully convinced that during the last few rounds, Davis turned a close back-and-forth battle into a clear-cut win. "We take our hats off to the other side," said Hunter to E! News. "But I thought down the stretch, the last 2 rounds sealed the deal. I thought we pulled it off." The only hope for Gervonta Davis in the rematch is if he takes his craft so seriously, like he said he would after the fight. The sad draw against Lamont Roach made him reveal that he was only going to take a week out of boxing to rest and relax before resuming within a week.
What was going through your mind when you heard the decision?
Nobody like a draw, you know, from a guy that get knockouts and things.
Regardless of whatever is happening with Gervonta Davis, boxing fans are heavily anticipating the rematch against Lamont Roach. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.